Part 1. The Dawn of Dinosaurs. Nearly 250 million years ago, in the early Triassic period following the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history, an expansive world of contrasts emerged where barren, sun-scorched deserts and rugged volcanic fields intermingled with fragile oases of burgeoning life. In this primordial era, when the planet was still healing from the cataclysmic end Permian extinction, tectonic forces and intermittent volcanic eruptions incessantly reshaped the very surface of the Earth. Lava flows and ash falls softened into fertile layers over eons, gradually transforming desolate landscapes into potential cradles of life. It was in this challenging yet dynamic environment that the first dinosaurs, modest, agile reptiles such as Eoraptor, whose very name translates to dawn thief, and the sleek, predatory Heretosaurus, stepped cautiously into existence. Their emergence is recorded not only in the sparse fossilized bones that have withstood the test of time, but also in the delicate, winding footprints left behind in fine layers of sedimentary rock. These initial impressions, preserved in what were once moist riverbeds or transient puddles in an otherwise arid world, offer rare glimpses into the tentative yet determined strides of creatures that would ultimately redefine the evolutionary narrative of our planet. Geological records, examined meticulously from deep core samples and layered sediment deposits, reveal that the atmosphere during this epoch was undergoing profound transitions. Oxygen levels were slowly increasing amid fluctuating concentrations of greenhouse gases, gradually shifting vast regions from harsh, unyielding barrenness into zones that could support increasing biological complexity. The delicate balance of chemical reactions in the nascent atmosphere, influenced by volcanically derived minerals and ash, catalyzed the formation of microenvironments where moisture could be retained and where primitive plant life, such as early ferns and cycads, began to establish their footholds. These pioneering plants, with their simple vascular systems and hardy fronds, initiated a quiet revolution that would in time create the foundations for intricate food webs. Their sporadic growth provided the first pulses of organic matter into the soil, setting the stage for an evolutionary cascade that saw life not only return, but diversify in ways previously unimaginable. Fossil evidence, obtained from carefully excavated trackways and sediment layers in remote desert outcrops, attests to the rapid growth rates characteristic of these early dinosaurs. Microscopic examinations of bone cross-sections expose growth rings, akin to the rings of a tree, signifying that these creatures adapted their metabolism to a world subject to severe climatic fluctuations. In periods following brief torrential rains, the sudden availability of water and nourishment sparked bursts of growth, while lengthy dry spells necessitated a state of metabolic conservation. Such adaptive strategies were critical, for survival hinged on the ability to quickly capitalize on favorable conditions while enduring extended intervals of scarcity. The interplay between these biological rhythms and the relentless environmental pressures is imprinted in the fossil record, offering evidence that even the smallest shifts in temperature and humidity could trigger significant evolutionary responses. Adding to the richness of this early narrative is the interplay between volcanic activity and biological innovation. Volcanic eruptions, though occasionally devastating, served as potent agents of renewal. Ash and lava contributed essential minerals like phosphorus, calcium, and potassium to the soil, inadvertently fertilizing the landscape and accelerating the development of early plant communities. These mineral-rich deposits created localized ecological niches where life could flourish, providing the earliest dinosaurs and other pioneering organisms with the sustenance required for survival and growth. The rhythmic pulsations of Earth's inner forces, recorded in layers of tuff and basalt, interwove with the cycles of life above,
Each eruption left behind a distinct signature in the stratigraphic record, marking periods of rapid change, adaptation, and ultimately evolutionary experimentation. The very presence of these geological catalysts helped shape not only the physical environment, but also the biological trajectories of the emerging dinosaurs.
Further insights emerge from detailed studies of fossilized footprints that meander across ancient riverbeds and erosional scars, each a silent testament to the locomotion, behavior, and even the social tendencies of these pioneering reptiles. The meticulously preserved trackways illustrate a spectrum of movement patterns. Some tracks are shallow and widely spaced, suggesting a cautious, measured gait, likely employed in a landscape fraught with hidden dangers, while others indicate a more vigorous stride, perhaps reflecting moments of hurried foraging or evasion from predators. Variations in footprint size and depth across a single stratigraphic layer hint at a degree of social organization. Smaller, delicate prints found intermingled with larger, more robust impressions point to the presence of juveniles among adults, an early indication that these creatures may have gathered in loose aggregations, benefiting from the protection and shared resources afforded by communal behavior. Such interpretations are bolstered by the spatial arrangement of track clusters that, when mapped, suggest movement patterns consistent with migratory or foraging herds traversing vast, undulating plains. Microscopic analyses of these early dinosaur bones reveal even more about their biology, details that offer clues about their sensory capabilities, reproductive strategies, and even their behavioral rhythms. The structure of their vertebrae and limb bones indicates that early dinosaurs were built for agility and speed, with joint articulations that allowed them to maneuver quickly in search of shelter or sustenance. Subtle ridges on the surface of fossilized skull fragments suggest the presence of enhanced sensory organs, perhaps precursors to the more refined auditory and visual systems found in later, more sophisticated dinosaurs. Such anatomical features would have been critical for detecting environmental cues amid the fluctuating conditions of the early Triassic, where every change in light or sound could mean the difference between life and death. Additionally, the discovery of primitive, tooth-like structures in some fossil remains points to a transition from generalized, unspecialized diets toward more varied feeding strategies. Some species likely exploited small, soft-bodied prey or scavenged on the remnants of other organisms, while others grazed on the nascent, low-growing vegetation that began to colonize the recovering landscapes. Paleobotanical evidence further enriches this portrait of early Triassic ecosystems. Fossilized impressions of plant leaves, seeds, and even fragments of wood, though sparse, provide a snapshot of the nascent flora that emerged in the wake of earlier mass extinction events. These plant fossils, captured in the same sedimentary deposits as dinosaur footprints and bone fragments, hint at a symbiotic evolution between flora and fauna. As moisture gradually accumulated in the microhabitats created by volcanic and tectonic activity, primitive plants began to develop rudimentary vascular systems that enabled them to transport water more efficiently, thereby increasing their resilience to drought. In turn, these green pioneers offered food and shelter for small reptiles and insects, catalyzing an interdependent cycle of survival and adaptation. The chemical signatures found within fossilized plant material, even traces of ancient chlorophyll residues, suggest that the colors and textures of these early organisms may have been more varied than once thought, providing early dinosaurs with opportunities for camouflage and visual signaling in a world still dominated by stark, earthy tones. Isotopic studies of fossilized remains continue to unravel the complexities of this early period. By analyzing the ratios of oxygen and carbon isotopes preserved in bone apatite and surrounding sediments, researchers can infer details about ancient temperatures, precipitation patterns, and even seasonal variations in resource availability. These data indicate that the early Triassic experienced significant climatic oscillations, a world punctuated by episodes of intense heat, sporadic but torrential rains, and prolonged periods of drought. Such fluctuations forced early dinosaurs to develop flexible, responsive metabolisms and rapid life cycles, ensuring that they could exploit brief windows of opportunity when environmental conditions became temporarily favorable. Furthermore, the alternating layers of volcanic ash and sediment provide a near-continuous record of geological and climatic events, offering a chronological framework within which the evolutionary adaptations of these early creatures can be understood. In this rich mosaic of interlocking forces, geology, climate, biology, and time, the narrative of the first dinosaurs unfolds as a story of resilience and ingenuity. Every erupting volcano, every shifting sand dune, and every streak of rain that penetrated the hardened surface contributed to an intricate, ever-evolving backdrop against which these pioneers charted their course. The early dinosaurs, with their modest physiques and rapid growth rates, represented the vanguard of a lineage that would ultimately explode into a dazzling array of forms and functions over the ensuing millions of years. Their legacy is inscribed not only in the grand monuments of later, larger species, but also in the subtle, enduring traces found in sedimentary rock, a chronicle of emergence, struggle, and eventual triumph written in stone. As modern research continues to refine our understanding of these ancient worlds through advanced imaging, geochemical analysis, and paleobiological reconstructions, the dawn of dinosaurs remains an evocative chapter in Earth's history, a testament to the perennial capacity for life to re-emerge and adapt in even the harshest conditions. This extended meditation on the dawn of dinosaurs encapsulates the profound interplay between nascent life and a tumultuous, ever-changing Earth. It is a saga of revival and rebirth written over eons, where the earliest footsteps in soft mud transformed into the mighty strides of evolutionary conquerors. The interplay of biology and geology, captured through the meticulous work of paleontologists and geochemists alike, continues to illuminate how, from the darkest epochs of mass extinction, life not only reappeared, but flourished in forms that continue to fascinate and inspire. Every preserved footprint, every mineral deposit, and every fragment of bone from this era stands as a silent witness to the indomitable spirit of life. A spirit that even in the deepest silence of ancient time speaks of adaptation, endurance, and the unyielding drive to persist against all odds. Part 2. Secrets of the Early Mesozoic. Roughly 240 million years ago, as the Earth transitioned deeper into the early Mesozoic era, the landscape began to reveal an intricate mosaic of evolving ecosystems that stood in stark contrast to the stark, recovering plains of the Triassic. In this transformative epoch, the remnants of ancient, barren lands gave way to sprawling river systems that meandered through lowlands and across rising floodplains, crafting a dynamic canvas upon which life could flourish anew. Sedimentary basins, enriched by periodic deluges and the slow deposition of nutrient-laden silt, became cradles for burgeoning flora and in turn served as incubators for a new generation of reptiles that would challenge and redefine terrestrial life. Among these pioneers emerged small, nimble dinosaurs such as Coelophysis, whose agile forms and delicate, elongated limbs hinted at early experiments in efficient locomotion on uneven terrain. Their existence is preserved in the form of sinuous trackways in fine-grained sandstone that wind across ancient lake margins and muddy floodplain deposits, each footprint capturing the subtle interplay of movement and the shifting environment. Detailed geochemical studies of these sediment layers unveil a world in flux, one where minor oscillations in climate, as recorded by fluctuating oxygen and carbon isotope ratios, reveal a series of gentle warming and cooling cycles. These cycles, interspersed with episodic volcanic ash falls, created a patchwork of microhabitats in the shaded regions along quiet riverbanks. Moisture-gathered and primordial plants, such as horsetails, ferns, and early gymnosperms, began to take root. Fossil evidence from these locales, including impressions of delicate leaves and traces of pollen, attests to the diversification of plant life that, through symbiotic relationships with insects and small reptiles, seeded the development of ever more complex food webs. As gentle rains irrigated these nascent forests and meadows, the renewed abundance of plant matter provided not only nourishment, but also the crucial cover and support that allowed early herbivorous dinosaurs to develop specialized feeding habits and robust digestive systems, a transformation that is recorded meticulously in the microscopic structure of fossilized dental remains and jawbones. In parallel, the early Mesozoic witnessed notable advancements in the morphology and behavior of emerging dinosaur species. Radiometric dating of interbedded volcanic ash layers and fluvial deposits has revealed that fluctuating environmental conditions stimulated rapid evolutionary experimentation. For instance, subtle changes in the curvature and robustness of limb bones suggest adaptive shifts toward more efficient terrestrial locomotion, enabling these creatures to exploit diverse and fluctuating ecological niches. Analysis of growth rings in fossilized bone sections reveals that, much like the earlier Triassic pioneers, these dinosaurs experienced periodic bursts of growth. When environmental conditions were favorable, accelerated development occurred, while intervals of resource scarcity induced a conservation of metabolic energy, allowing them to survive through harsh climatic fluctuations. These observations, derived from painstaking microscopic examinations, underscore the inherent dynamism of evolutionary processes during this era, a time when even minor improvements in locomotion, sensory perception, or metabolic efficiency could mean the difference between thriving and extinction. The interplay between water and land during the early Mesozoic was pivotal in shaping these evolutionary trajectories. As ancient river systems carved out new channels and floodplains expanded, they generated localized ecosystems that varied dramatically over short distances. In some areas, meandering streams created wet, marsh-like environments ideal for the proliferation of amphibious reptiles and early archosaurs, while in adjacent uplands, drier conditions favored the emergence of species with robust, drought-resistant traits. Trace fossil studies in these diverse settings have identified variations in footprint morphology, some prints being broad and deeply impressed, indicating heavy, slow-moving animals, and others slender and elongated, suggesting swift and nimble movement across moist substrates. These variations not only reflect the physical adaptations of the animals, but also the intricate mosaic of environmental pressures that drove evolutionary divergence. Paleoenvironmental reconstructions based on sedimentological data and fossilized flora indicate that this period was characterized by a delicate balance between water availability and aridity, a rhythm that set the pace for reproductive cycles, migratory behaviors, and even social structures among early dinosaur populations. Within this context of environmental dynamism, early Mesozoic ecosystems also became laboratories of behavioral innovation. Fossilized bone beds and trackway concentrations found in sedimentary rock formations have provided intriguing insights into possible social interactions and group behaviors among these early reptiles. For example, clusters of footprints, varying in size yet aligned in coherent patterns, hint at the possibility of coordinated movement or herding behavior that might have conferred advantages in predator avoidance or efficient foraging. Advanced imaging techniques and three-dimensional reconstructions of these trace fossils reveal subtle details, such as the spacing between footprints and variations in pressure distribution, that suggest differences in gait and speed among individuals, possibly reflecting age, sex, or social hierarchy. Such data not only enrich the understanding of individual species, but also weave together a broader narrative of community dynamics and ecological interdependence during an era when the environment itself was a constantly shifting tapestry of opportunity and challenge. Moreover, the early Mesozoic is distinguished by significant changes at the molecular level, as indicated by the chemical signatures preserved in fossilized remains. Studies analyzing the ratios of stable isotopes, such as oxygen isotopes from bone apatite, have provided critical clues about ambient temperatures and water sources, linking physiological adaptations to broader climatic trends. These isotopic records reveal that fluctuations in temperature and humidity were closely tied to the life cycles of early dinosaurs, influencing everything from metabolic rates to breeding seasons. In turn, these environmental cues were likely integral in shaping the anatomical features observed in these species, such as the development of robust limb structures for traversing a mix of wet and dry terrains, or the refinement of sensory organs designed to monitor subtle shifts in light and air pressure. The chemical interplay captured in these ancient tissues, preserved over millions of years, serves as a molecular chronicle of adaptation and resilience, a testament to how even microscopic changes in the environment can cascade into significant evolutionary milestones. As this era unfolded, the early Mesozoic also set the stage for future diversification by laying down ecological foundations that would support increasingly complex life forms. The gradual evolution and spread of plant species not only provided essential food resources, but also contributed to the stabilization of local climates through processes like transpiration and soil enrichment. These processes, in turn, fostered the emergence of more specialized dinosaur species, which developed unique morphological and behavioral adaptations to exploit the diverse array of available niches. The fossil record from this period is replete with evidence of such specialization, with distinct dental and cranial structures appearing as early as in the first few million years of the Mesozoic, hinting at the evolutionary experiments that would eventually give rise to a dazzling array of later dinosaur clades. The story of the early Mesozoic is one of transformation, resilience, and continuous innovation. Each sediment layer, each faint fossil imprint, and every nuanced anatomical detail captured by modern analytical techniques forms part of a vast, interwoven narrative, a tale of how life, confronted by both opportunity and adversity, evolves relentlessly in pursuit of survival and dominance. From the quiet murmur of ancient river flows to the subtle chemical signatures embedded in fossilized bones, every element of this era speaks of a world in transition, a world where the seeds of future diversity were sown amid the intricate dance of environmental change and biological ingenuity. In sum, the early Mesozoic emerges not simply as a transitional period, but as a vibrant epoch in which the rudimentary experiments of early dinosaurs matured into sophisticated strategies for life on land. Through a deep integration of geological, biological, and chemical evidence, this era reveals a panorama of evolutionary breakthroughs, a symphony of adaptations orchestrated by the interplay of water, fire, and the inexorable passage of time. The secrets of the early Mesozoic, therefore, are etched into every fossilized footprint, every layer of sediment, and every microscopic trace left behind in the ancient rocks,
forming an enduring chronicle of life's remarkable capacity to reinvent itself in the face of relentless, ever-changing challenges.
Part 3. The Majesty of the Triassic Giants. In the later Triassic period, as the Earth slowly emerged from the long shadow of the Permian extinction, life began to reclaim its place on land. Vast, open plains spread across the continents, interrupted by braided river systems and fern-filled woodlands. These fertile landscapes became the cradle of the first true dinosaur giants, early sauropodomorphs like Plateosaurus, whose size and stature marked a turning point in reptilian evolution. Fossils recovered from Europe and South America show creatures with thick limb bones, strong pelvic girdles, and powerful tails that suggest an ability to move deliberately across long distances. The footprints they left behind, pressed deep into ancient floodplains, show the regular spacing of measured strides, a clue to their immense body mass and steady, rhythmic walking patterns. Microscopic analysis of their bones reveals something even more telling: growth rings, much like those of trees, which alternate between periods of rapid development and slower stasis. These rings capture the pulse of the environment, abundant seasons of growth interrupted by lean years of drought or scarcity. As these early giants matured, their diets shifted to match their size. Fossilized plant matter found near their remains includes early conifers, cycads, and horsetail groves, tough, fibrous vegetation requiring specialized teeth and strong jaws. Wear patterns on jawbones suggest these animals ground through massive quantities of rough plant material daily, slowly evolving the efficient feeding systems that would later define the great sauropods of the Jurassic. Paleobotanical studies of Triassic terrain suggest that plant diversity was gradually expanding. Ancient soils, rich with decomposed organic matter and volcanic ash, supported low-lying vegetation and scattered tree groves, particularly near water sources. This lush growth in turn supported herbivores capable of stripping leaves, tearing fronds, and browsing low-hanging branches. Jaw musculature, inferred from skull structure, reveals increasing specialization in feeding, some dinosaurs developing blunt, spoon-shaped teeth for scooping and chewing, while others bore more tapered teeth designed to nip delicate shoots and stems. These anatomical differences mark the earliest divergence in dietary strategies among large-bodied herbivores. The size of these early giants posed new physiological challenges, and fossil evidence shows that their bodies met these demands with remarkable adaptations. Their long necks likely helped them reach a wide swath of food without the need for constant movement, an energy-saving innovation. Studies using 3D modeling and bone density scanning show that many of these dinosaurs had air-filled spaces within their vertebrae and skulls, reducing weight while preserving strength. This system of pneumatization would later evolve into the advanced respiratory systems of later sauropods, efficient, bird-like lungs capable of supporting a massive body on relatively low oxygen levels. Fossil trackways offer compelling evidence of group movement among these early giants. In some sites, multiple parallel paths preserved in dried mud suggest coordinated travel by small herds. These paths vary in depth and width, pointing to different sizes and ages within the group. The spacing between prints and overlap of stride patterns tells us these were not isolated travelers, but possibly family groups moving through ancient forests and across riverbanks together. Such behavior likely offered protection and foraging advantages, especially in unpredictable climates. These trackways, frozen in time, whisper of long-forgotten journeys and ancient instincts shared among Earth's earliest megaherbivores. Predators, too, were adapting. Sleek, two-legged carnivores, smaller and quicker than their prey, began appearing in the fossil record around the same time. Though not yet the dominant hunters they would one day become, these early theropods exhibited key traits that foreshadowed later giants like Allosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. Their teeth were recurved and finely serrated, ideal for gripping and slicing. Their limbs were lightweight yet strong, built for pursuit and ambush rather than brute strength. Evidence of healed bite marks on large herbivore bones suggests frequent confrontations and survival through injury, testaments to both the tenacity of the prey and the persistence of early predators. In some fossil beds, bones of different species are found intermingled in what appear to be mass death assemblages. These layers, often linked to flash floods or volcanic activity, provide a rare glimpse into entire communities caught off guard by natural disasters. Careful excavation reveals subtle details: a juvenile skeleton huddled next to a larger adult, or tooth impressions near a shattered femur. These moments of stillness tell a broader story about the interconnected lives of Triassic dinosaurs, of competition, survival, and the inescapable grip of the environment. Geochemical studies further expand our understanding of how these giants lived. Isotope analysis of oxygen and carbon in fossilized bones shows they likely had wide home ranges, moving between regions to follow seasonal rainfall and vegetation blooms. Variations in isotopic values across growth rings suggest shifts in diet and water sources, painting a picture of mobile animals tuned to the rhythms of their world. This evidence reinforces the idea that early dinosaurs were not static inhabitants of a single habitat, but travelers in search of sustenance, shade, and stability. Environmental shifts continued to drive evolution. The late Triassic saw the fragmentation of Pangaea, leading to the creation of new coastlines, rift valleys, and inland seas. These changes altered weather patterns, reshaped ecosystems, and carved new migration routes. Dinosaur species that could adapt to this changing world, those that could walk farther, eat tougher plants, or breathe more efficiently, began to outcompete those stuck in older ways. The survivors of this period, already large and capable, would set the stage for the dramatic radiation of species that would come in the Jurassic. In the bones of these early giants, in the sediments of their resting places, and in the very stone that bears their footprints, lies a chronicle of growth, innovation, and endurance. The majesty of the Triassic giants was not just in their size, but in the evolutionary momentum they carried forward. They were the architects of a new biological order, shaping the ecosystems they inhabited, and paving the way for the golden age of dinosaurs yet to come. Their story, patiently waiting in the layers of rock and time, continues to unfold with every fossil uncovered, a quiet legacy of survival etched into the Earth's memory. Part 4. The Mesozoic Metamorphosis. As the Jurassic period began to unfold, the rise of the theropods marked a major shift in the prehistoric balance of power. These bipedal, carnivorous dinosaurs came in many shapes and sizes, but shared core traits that made them some of the most efficient predators Earth had ever seen. Long, hollow bones made their bodies light, while powerful legs provided bursts of speed. Fossils from species like Colophysis and Dilophosaurus reveal narrow skulls filled with razor-edged recurved teeth, perfect for slicing through flesh. Their forelimbs, though often smaller than their hind legs, were tipped with claws capable of grabbing, slashing, or holding struggling prey. These weren't lumbering hunters, but fast, strategic killers adapted for a world full of opportunity and competition. Among the earliest successful theropods, Colophysis stood out for its elegance and speed. At just over 2 meters long, it was lightly built and likely hunted in packs or opportunistically scavenged. In Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, a mass fossil site, preserved dozens of individuals buried together, suggesting some social structure or possibly a catastrophic event that caught an entire group. These fossils show long necks, delicate yet strong jaws, and cis-shaped spinal curves that enhanced agility. Nearby, Dilophosaurus began to push the boundaries of size and strength. With twin crests arching above its snout and a body nearly 7 meters long, it introduced a more robust predator to the scene. Its jaws were longer, its teeth more deeply rooted, and its skull more reinforced, hinting at a style of hunting that involved fast chases and powerful, shaking bites to tear into larger prey. But even these agile predators had to evolve alongside the herbivores they hunted. As sauropods began to grow larger and stegosaurids developed armor-like plates and spikes, theropods faced new challenges. Teeth marks found on fossilized bones show signs of failed attacks and healed injuries, evidence of prey that survived. Some predators adapted by shifting to smaller prey or scavenging, while others developed more advanced senses and greater coordination. The anatomy of their inner ears, preserved in fossilized skulls, shows strong spatial awareness crucial for pursuit hunting. Enlarged olfactory bulbs indicate that smell played a major role in tracking food over long distances. These adaptations weren't about brute strength alone. They were about intelligence, timing, and precision. Geological layers from the mid-Jurassic reveal predator fossils buried alongside a wide array of other life forms, amphibians, reptiles, and early mammals, illustrating their dominance in varied ecosystems. In formations like Kayenta in North America and the Tacuarembó in South America, entire food webs are represented in the stone. At these sites, smaller theropods like Sinosaurus and Megapnosaurus show variation in skull shape and limb proportions, with some suggesting different hunting styles or preferred prey. These subtle changes across regions reflect evolutionary branching, where isolation, climate, and competition each played a part in shaping new forms of predatory life. Feathers began to appear in some smaller theropods during this time, not for flight, but for insulation or display. Fossils from China, particularly in the Yixian Formation, reveal intricate feather impressions along the limbs and tails of creatures like Anchiornis and Xiaotiania. These animals retained claws and sharp teeth, but also bore plumage likely used to signal mates or regulate temperature. This development marked the early transition toward flight-capable species, but even grounded theropods benefited from this adaptation. Lightweight, feathery bodies could move more efficiently in a variety of climates, giving them a broader range and greater flexibility in survival strategies. The introduction of these more advanced predators triggered ripple effects across the ecosystem. Herbivores grouped into larger herds. Some developed stronger hind limbs for quick escapes, while others evolved more elaborate defense systems. This continual arms race between predator and prey kept pushing evolution forward. Fossilized trackways reveal scenes of pursuit, predator prints gaining on prey, some trailing off abruptly, frozen mid-hunt. These moments, preserved in layers of sediment, provide rare glimpses into the behaviors and interactions that once filled Jurassic landscapes. As the Jurassic progressed, so did the theropods. Larger species began to emerge, and so did more complex behaviors. Some fossil beds reveal mixed-age groups buried together, suggesting juveniles may have stayed with adults for longer periods, possibly learning hunting strategies before venturing out alone. Pathologies found in bones, healed fractures, stress marks, and deformations suggest long lives full of conflict and survival. Others show signs of death by competition, cracked skulls and tooth-punctured ribs that tell stories of rivalries and hierarchies within the species themselves. By the end of the period, theropods had established themselves across nearly every continent. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving in deserts, forests, swamps, and floodplains. Their presence shaped the landscape just as much as the climate or tectonic shifts. And though they would continue to evolve into even more fearsome forms, including apex predators like Allosaurus and eventually Tyrannosaurus, it was in this early period that the core of their success was forged. Agile, intelligent, and always adapting, the predators of the Jurassic left behind a legacy of motion, instinct, and silent, fossilized pursuit. Part 5. The Age of Giants. The Middle to Late Jurassic period marked a turning point in prehistoric life, an era where size became strategy. It was during this time that sauropods, the largest land animals to ever exist, came to dominate Earth's landscapes. These immense herbivorous dinosaurs, such as Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, and Apatosaurus, evolved into massive lumbering creatures that shaped ecosystems around them simply by existing. Some, like Argentinosaurus, may have reached over 100 feet in length and tipped the scales at more than 70 tons. These weren't outliers. They were part of an entire lineage that perfected the art of being enormous, transforming their habitats through constant movement, grazing, and sheer physical presence. These animals weren't just big. They were biomechanical marvels. Their long necks, often stretching 30 feet or more, were built from an intricate series of air-filled vertebrae. These hollow bones dramatically reduced weight while maintaining strength, allowing them to lift their necks and sweep through wide feeding ranges without expending much energy. The respiratory system that accompanied this skeletal adaptation was also advanced, with air sacs extending into their torso and even their limbs. This network provided a continuous flow of oxygen, similar to what modern birds use today. It enabled a slow but powerful lifestyle, where size didn't come at the cost of suffocation or exhaustion. Their feeding habits were uniquely adapted to their anatomy. Sauropods didn't chew their food. They didn't need to. Their peg-like teeth were suited for raking and stripping vegetation, which was swallowed whole and processed by a gigantic gut. Some sauropods replaced their teeth frequently, every few weeks, as they wore down from constant use. Inside their stomachs, stones known as gastroliths may have acted as natural grinders, helping to pulverize the coarse plant material they consumed. Combined with microbial fermentation, this allowed them to digest tough ferns, cycads, and conifers efficiently. Their constant feeding helped maintain the energy needed to support such colossal frames. The design of their limbs was equally efficient. Sauropods walked on thick, pillar-like legs, with bones arranged in vertical columns to support massive body weights. Their feet bore a unique structure too, broad, cushioned pads that helped distribute pressure and absorb shock with each step. Brachiosaurus stood taller than most, with forelimbs longer than its hind limbs, giving it a distinctive silhouette and access to high tree canopies. Some tails, like those of Diplodocus, were long and whip-like, potentially capable of snapping through the air at great speed. This may have served a defensive role or been used for communication, echoing through ancient forests in low-frequency rumbles or sharp cracks. Though their size made adult sauropods nearly untouchable, they were not invincible. Predators like Allosaurus coexisted with them, and fossil evidence suggests regular attempts at predation, particularly on juveniles. Bite marks, punctures, and even healed wounds on fossilized bones tell stories of conflict, escape, and survival. Sauropods likely relied on herding behaviors for protection, moving together in groups, shielding the young in the center. Their tails, when swung with force, could have delivered devastating blows, and their immense mass made charging predators think twice. A coordinated herd of sauropods was not just a group of herbivores, It was a defensive wall of muscle and motion. Reproduction in sauropods followed a strategy of quantity over investment. Rather than lay a few large eggs, they produced many small ones, each about the size of a grapefruit. Fossil nesting grounds, discovered in Argentina and India, show sprawling fields of eggs, sometimes in layers, indicating that entire herds return to the same locations annually. These eggs were likely buried in warm sand or covered with vegetation, relying on the environment for incubation. Once hatched, the young sauropods faced a perilous journey. Growth had to be fast to escape the vulnerable size range. Bone growth patterns suggest they could double in size within just a few years, a necessary adaptation in a world full of hungry predators. Their ecosystems were vast and varied, rich enough to sustain these giants and the plants they depended on. The Morrison Formation in North America is one such treasure trove, a fossil-rich layer of sediment, revealing not just bones, but entire communities of plants and animals. Dense forests of conifers, horsetails, cycads, and ferns covered the land, feeding enormous herds. As they moved, sauropods cleared vegetation, spread seeds, and fertilized the land with vast quantities of waste. Their influence was so great that it's likely the plant life itself evolved in response to them, developing faster growth rates or tougher leaves to survive constant grazing pressure. Sauropods shared these landscapes with a host of other herbivores and predators. Stegosaurus, with its distinctive plates and tail spikes, foraged lower to the ground, while ornithopods like Camptosaurus filled other niches. These varied feeding strategies helped avoid direct competition, creating a layered ecosystem where each species occupied a specific role. Trackways discovered in ancient riverbeds sometimes show multiple dinosaur types moving together or following parallel paths. These fossilized footprints provide rare glimpses into behavior and movement, evidence not just of biology, but of social interaction and the rhythms of daily life in the Jurassic world. As the Jurassic gave way to the Cretaceous, sauropods continued to thrive in some regions and vanish in others. Some species evolved armor, like Saltosaurus, which developed bony plates beneath the skin. Others, like Alamosaurus, would carry the lineage into the final chapters of the dinosaur age. The success of sauropods lay not just in their size, but in their adaptability and endurance. They turned slowness into strength, minimal motion into maximum impact, and mass into mastery. Their fossils, stretching across every continent, remind us of a time when the earth rumbled beneath the steps of creatures so large they seemed like mountains on the move. Part 6. Echoes of the Jurassic. As the Mesozoic era reached its final chapters, the Cretaceous period emerged, an epoch of profound transformation and astonishing biodiversity, where the Earth's ecosystems matured and the variety of life reached its zenith. During this time, dinosaurs flourished in ways that had never been seen before. The landscape was populated by massive herbivores like Triceratops, swift and agile predators such as Ornithomimus, and the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex. These creatures were not merely surviving, they were thriving and evolving into forms that dominated their environments. The Cretaceous world was shaped by these species in remarkable ways, their presence impacting everything from the plant life they ate to the ecosystems they left behind. It was in this environment that the most iconic dinosaurs of all time would rise to prominence, defining the final phase of the age of dinosaurs. At the heart of the Cretaceous was a dramatic shift in the planet's flora. The rise of flowering plants, or angiosperms, had a profound effect on the planet's ecosystems. These plants spread quickly across the globe, offering a new food source that herbivorous dinosaurs were quick to take advantage of. The Triceratops, with its characteristic 3 facial horns and bony frill, stood as one of the most remarkable herbivores of the time. Its massive body, capable of withstanding the blows of predators, moved in large herds across vast plains. These herds were likely highly social, with Triceratops using their horns for more than just defense. They were also tools for dominance displays, mating rituals, and possibly social interactions within their groups. The large frill behind its head may have also played a role in regulating body temperature or in visual communication, further highlighting the complexity of their behavior and interactions. While Triceratops roamed the plains, one of the most formidable predators ever to walk the earth, Tyrannosaurus rex, stalked the same territories with a commanding presence. As one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs, Rex had an impressive skull, equipped with jaws capable of delivering bone-crushing bites. Its teeth, serrated and shaped for slicing, were ideal for tearing through the flesh of its prey. What set Rex apart from other predators, however, was its highly specialized hunting abilities. Its binocular vision, much like that of modern birds of prey, allowed it to judge distances with remarkable precision, making it a formidable and efficient predator. With its highly developed sense of smell, it could likely track prey across miles of forested landscape, detecting scents carried by the wind. Rex was not just a mindless killing machine. It was an apex predator, finely tuned for its environment, a creature that had honed its hunting skills over millions of years. The Cretaceous period was not only a time of dinosaur giants, but also a golden age for flight. While pterosaurs such as Pteranodon had been airborne for millions of years, it was during the Cretaceous that they reached their greatest diversity and size. These flying reptiles, with wingspans that could stretch over 30 feet, soared through the skies, preying on fish, squid, and smaller vertebrates. Their flight was highly adapted, their lightweight bodies and specialized wing structures giving them agility and speed. But the skies weren't only populated by pterosaurs. Birds descendants of theropod dinosaurs began to spread during this time, evolving into creatures capable of true flight. Early species like Archaeopteryx, which lived at the very beginning of the Cretaceous, showed the first signs of fully functional wings, suggesting that flight had evolved not only for hunting, but also for migration and display. The evolution of feathers during this period was also multifaceted, with feathers serving functions from flight to insulation and even as part of mating displays, marking an evolutionary breakthrough for these early birds. While the skies above teemed with life, the Cretaceous seas were home to an equally remarkable array of creatures. Giant marine reptiles like Mosasaurus and Plesiosaurus ruled the oceans, their long bodies and powerful tails built for swift, efficient movement through water. Mosasaurus in particular was a top predator in the seas, with its streamlined body and powerful jaws capable of capturing large fish and other marine creatures. The fossilized remains of these ancient marine reptiles show evidence of their incredible hunting abilities, including bite marks found on their prey, suggesting that they were relentless and efficient hunters. Some of these marine reptiles were even larger than the dinosaurs that roamed the land, showcasing the diversity of life forms that the Cretaceous seas supported. The oceans were as dangerous as the land, with marine reptiles and predatory fish vying for dominance in a complex food web beneath the waves. On land, the climate and geology of the Cretaceous period facilitated the growth of extensive forests, rich wetlands, and vast plains. The atmosphere during this period was warmer and more humid than in previous eras, with vast conifer forests, cycads, and ferns blanketing the landscape. Volcanic activity also shaped the environment, producing new landforms and altering habitats. This changing landscape created isolated ecosystems, leading to the development of unique species. The Western Interior Seaway, which split North America in two, provided the perfect conditions for different groups of dinosaurs to evolve in isolation. Species such as Hadrosaurus, with its distinctive duckbill, and Pachyrhinosaurus, with its thick bony frill, adapted to their specific environments, evolving specialized traits to thrive in these changing conditions. These creatures, while similar to others found around the world, were distinct in their adaptations to local environments. One of the most striking aspects of Cretaceous dinosaurs was the emergence of increasingly sophisticated social behaviors. Fossil evidence from nesting sites, such as those of the herbivorous Maiasaura, suggests that some dinosaurs exhibited complex parental care. These nesting sites, often found in large colonies, indicate that these species returned to the same locations year after year, perhaps engaging in migratory behavior. These communal nests provided protection for the young, while adults likely worked together to protect their offspring from predators. The presence of fossilized juvenile dinosaurs in these nesting grounds suggests that they grew rapidly, a strategy that likely helped them survive in a world full of predators. Evidence of these behaviors suggests that these dinosaurs were not solitary wanderers but social beings, relying on cooperation and group dynamics to raise their young and thrive in a challenging environment. The Cretaceous period also witnessed dramatic environmental changes, from fluctuating temperatures to the rise of new plant life. The introduction of flowering plants provided new food sources for herbivores, while the increasing atmospheric oxygen levels allowed for the evolution of larger animals. This climate change was driven in part by volcanic activity, which released large amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, contributing to the greenhouse effect. As the climate warmed, it became more conducive to the growth of plant life, allowing herbivores like Triceratops and Hadrosaurus to grow to impressive sizes. The increased oxygen levels in the atmosphere also allowed for the growth of larger animals, creating an arms race between herbivores and predators that drove evolution in new directions. The constant environmental fluctuations, however, also led to increased competition for resources, forcing species to adapt or perish. The end of the Cretaceous period brought dramatic changes to the world. The climate fluctuated wildly, and the asteroid impact that ultimately led to the mass extinction of the dinosaurs marked the close of this remarkable era. However, the legacy of the Cretaceous was far-reaching. The great herbivores and terrifying carnivores that dominated the landscape left an indelible mark on the world, shaping the evolution of life for millions of years to come. As the world recovered from the extinction event, the groundwork was laid for the rise of mammals and the eventual dominance of species like humans. Yet the dinosaurs of the Cretaceous remain among the most awe-inspiring creatures to have ever lived. Their fossils a window into a time of vast, diverse ecosystems and evolutionary experimentation. Part 7. Mysteries in the Shadows of Time. The story of dinosaurs is not only one of discovery, but also of lingering mysteries that remain embedded in the fossil record. While paleontologists have uncovered an incredible wealth of information about these ancient creatures, many aspects of their existence continue to elude understanding. The bones and fossils of dinosaurs tell a compelling story of their anatomy, but there are still countless questions about their behavior, coloration, social structures, and even the sounds they may have made. Despite the advances in technology and knowledge, the true nature of these creatures remains partly obscured by the veil of time, leaving paleontologists to search for clues in the shadows of their existence. One of the most persistent mysteries is how dinosaurs appeared in life, particularly in terms of their color. Fossilized bones and teeth have offered much insight into the structure and habits of dinosaurs, but color remains a mystery. For years, it was assumed that dinosaurs were predominantly drab, much like modern reptiles, but more recent discoveries have begun to challenge that notion. The study of fossilized feathers in particular has revealed that many species, especially those related to modern birds, were likely adorned in vibrant hues. Microscopic structures known as melanosomes, which store pigment, have been found in certain fossils, offering a glimpse into the color patterns that may have decorated these animals. While species like Microraptor are believed to have sported iridescent feathers, the colors of most dinosaurs are still speculative. For some, the fossil evidence is enough to hint at a dazzling world of color, yet for others, the true appearance remains shrouded in mystery. Beyond color, the question of dinosaur behavior also presents a puzzle. Fossilized footprints known as trackways provide valuable evidence of the way dinosaurs moved, but these only offer a glimpse into their interactions and social behavior. Trackways often show that certain species traveled together in groups, suggesting that some dinosaurs may have engaged in social behaviors. However, the exact nature of these relationships, whether these creatures were hunting partners, herd members, or rivals, remains unclear. Some species, such as sauropods and hadrosaurids, left behind evidence of group movement, but understanding the motivations behind these group behaviors requires more than just footprints. Were these groups a matter of protection, foraging, or migration? The fossil record offers clues, but many aspects of social dynamics remain speculative, leaving room for interpretation and debate among paleontologists. One dinosaur that continues to provoke intense debate is Tyrannosaurus rex. Traditionally, T-Rex has been portrayed as a solitary apex predator, stalking the land alone in search of prey. However, some evidence suggests a more complex social structure. Fossilized remains of T. rex show signs of cannibalism, with bite marks on bones indicating that these predators may have turned on each other in times of scarcity. Additionally, the structure of the T-Rex's skull and its keen sense of smell hint at possible social behaviors. The idea that T-Rex might have lived in packs or exhibited parental care for its young challenges the image of the lone hunter and suggests that the species could have had more intricate social behaviors than previously thought. As scientists continue to examine fossil evidence, the question of whether T-Rex was a solitary predator or part of a more complex social network remains open, adding a layer of mystery to one of the most iconic dinosaurs. Another intriguing mystery lies in the movement patterns of dinosaurs, particularly the question of migration. Fossils from various species, such as Brachiosaurus and Triceratops, have been found in regions far from what would have been their natural habitat. This raises the question of whether these dinosaurs migrated over vast distances, much like modern herds of wildebeest or caribou. Trackways provide some insight into the movement of these animals, showing evidence of migration or seasonal travel. However, the reasons behind such movements remain unclear. Were dinosaurs moving in search of food, or were their migrations driven by environmental changes such as climate fluctuations or the availability of water? While some scientists believe that certain species followed migratory patterns, the lack of definitive evidence means that the question of dinosaur migration remains speculative, with many aspects still to be uncovered. The question of how dinosaurs communicated is another area shrouded in mystery. While modern birds and reptiles produce a wide range of vocalizations to communicate, no direct evidence of dinosaur sounds has been preserved in the fossil record. However, advances in technology have allowed paleontologists to study the inner ear structures of dinosaurs, providing clues about how they might have communicated. Some dinosaurs, such as sauropods and theropods, may have used low-frequency sounds or deep rumbles to communicate across long distances, similar to the vocalizations of modern elephants or crocodiles. In some cases, it is believed that these creatures could have also used visual signals, such as the display of feathers or body postures, to communicate. While the precise nature of dinosaur communication remains speculative, new findings continue to reshape the understanding of how these creatures might have interacted with one another. The internal biology of dinosaurs presents another layer of mystery. For much of the 20th century, dinosaurs were believed to be cold-blooded, slow-moving creatures. However, recent studies suggest that many species, especially theropods, were likely warm-blooded, which would have influenced their behavior and metabolism. Evidence of rapid bone growth in some species indicates a high metabolic rate, suggesting that these dinosaurs were more active and agile than previously thought. The question of how different groups of dinosaurs regulated their body temperature is still under investigation. Did large sauropods, for example, rely on their immense size to maintain heat, or did they have specialized adaptations for thermoregulation? These questions highlight the complexity of dinosaur physiology and demonstrate how much remains to be understood about the inner workings of these ancient creatures. Finally, perhaps the greatest mystery of all is the abrupt end to the age of dinosaurs. Around 66 million years ago, a catastrophic event, believed to be the impact of an asteroid, brought about a mass extinction that wiped out approximately 75% of all species on Earth. While the asteroid impact is widely considered to be the primary cause of this extinction event, other factors, such as volcanic activity and climate change, may have played significant roles. The evidence left behind by this cataclysm is vast, with layers of iridium-rich clay found at the KT boundary marking the impact site. Yet, despite the wealth of evidence, the exact sequence of events leading to the extinction of the dinosaurs remains a topic of ongoing research and debate. What is certain is that this event marked the end of an era and paved the way for mammals to rise to dominance, forever altering the course of life on Earth. The mysteries of the dinosaurs continue to captivate scientists and enthusiasts alike. With each new discovery, paleontologists come closer to unraveling the secrets of these ancient creatures, but many questions remain unanswered. As research progresses, the shadows of time may one day yield the full story of the dinosaurs, revealing even more about their behavior, appearance, and interactions with the world around them. Until then, these mysteries serve as a reminder of how much there is still to learn, and how the ancient past continues to shape our understanding of life on Earth. Part 8. The gentle rhythm of prehistory. The Mesozoic world was governed by rhythms, patterns that were woven into the fabric of life itself, driving the behaviors of dinosaurs, plants, and the environment. Far from being a chaotic time of constant change, the era unfolded like a symphony, with every creature, from the smallest insect to the largest sauropod, playing their part in a natural cadence. From the rise and fall of the sun each day to the changing of the seasons, these rhythms orchestrated life. They guided migration, reproduction, and even the growth of the creatures themselves, offering a sense of predictability and stability that made survival in such a dynamic world possible. The growth patterns of dinosaurs offer clear evidence of these natural cycles. Fossils often reveal growth rings in bones, much like tree rings, indicating that dinosaurs' growth was not a continuous process, but one that ebbed and flowed with the seasons. In spring and summer, when resources were abundant, dinosaurs grew rapidly, putting on weight and size in preparation for harsher conditions. During the colder months, their growth slowed considerably as food became scarcer and the climate more challenging. These cycles not only influenced physical development, but also played a role in reproductive success, with dinosaurs timing their growth to ensure they were at their peak during the most favorable conditions. The daily rhythm of light and darkness also dictated much of dinosaur life. Fossil trackways offer glimpses into the time of day when certain species were most active. For example, Coelophysis appears to have been a creature that left tracks primarily at dawn or dusk, suggesting it was active during the cooler parts of the day. This time-based behavior could have been a strategy to avoid the heat of midday, making it easier to forage for food or hunt. Predators might have also capitalized on low-light conditions for stalking prey, using the twilight hours to gain an advantage. This interaction between predator and prey was a finely tuned rhythm, one that allowed each species to maximize its chances of survival by capitalizing on the natural cycles of the day. Seasonal rhythms played a major role in migration and reproduction. Fossilized nesting sites of dinosaurs like Maiasaura show that some species returned to the same areas year after year, suggesting a deep connection to the rhythms of the environment. These herds would time their migrations to coincide with the best conditions for laying eggs and raising young. Nesting grounds were often near water, where the young would be protected from predators while the parents foraged. This seasonal behavior ensured that the eggs were laid at just the right time, when resources were plentiful and temperatures were ideal for the development of the next generation. The eggs themselves, found in clusters, reveal that these herds would often come together in mass to lay their eggs, reinforcing the idea that their lives followed an annual rhythm of preparation, reproduction, and growth. Herbivores, too, followed the rhythms of the land. Dinosaurs like sauropods and ornithischians would have adapted to the seasonal growth of plant life, moving across the landscape to follow the plants as they matured. In spring, the plants would start to bloom, and these herbivores would move in to graze, consuming vast amounts of vegetation to sustain their enormous bodies. As the seasons changed, these dinosaurs would shift their grazing grounds, always following the freshest and most abundant plant life. This cyclical movement not only ensured they had a steady food source, but also played a role in shaping the environment. By feeding on plants, they cleared the land, allowing new growth to take root and influencing the kinds of plants that could thrive in different areas. Just as plants followed their own cycles, so too did the growth of dinosaur young. Fossil evidence indicates that dinosaurs like Maiasaura laid their eggs in nesting grounds that had already been used by previous generations, highlighting how the rhythm of reproduction was tied to a specific time and place. These eggs would be buried in the sand or covered by vegetation to maintain the right temperature for incubation. The timing of egg laying was critical for the survival of the species, as it ensured that the young would hatch when food was abundant and the weather favorable for growth. This natural alignment between reproduction and the rhythms of the environment created an environment in which dinosaur species could successfully thrive over generations. The social behavior of dinosaurs, particularly large herbivores like sauropods, was also shaped by these natural rhythms. Fossilized trackways suggest that sauropods traveled in coordinated herds, following seasonal migration routes that took them to new feeding grounds, water sources, and nesting areas. These herds would often travel long distances, moving in synchrony to ensure that every member of the group could find food and shelter. This behavior was not random. It was deeply connected to the cycles of the environment. The herd dynamics provided protection for the vulnerable young, while the larger adults led the way, ensuring that the group would reach safe and resource-rich areas in time. The interactions between herbivores, predators, and plants followed their own cyclical patterns, helping to maintain balance within the ecosystem. As herbivores grazed, they cleared the land, allowing new vegetation to grow. Their waste acted as natural fertilizer, enriching the soil and promoting plant growth. Carnivores in turn kept herbivore populations in check, hunting and feeding on the weak or sick. This cycle of consumption, fertilization, and growth ensured that ecosystems remained healthy and stable. Herbivores followed the plant cycles, predators followed the herbivores, and plants followed the seasons. It was an interconnected web of life, each thread woven into the rhythm of the environment. Though the dinosaurs are long gone, the rhythms of the natural world that govern their lives continue to shape our planet today. The migratory patterns of modern animals, such as birds, still follow seasonal rhythms, echoing the same migratory paths taken by their distant ancestors. Plants still grow and bloom according to the cycles of the seasons, feeding herbivores and fueling the food chain. The natural rhythms that shaped the dinosaurs' world are still evident in the world around us, linking the distant past to the present and showing how the cycle of life continues to turn. These rhythms, once central to the survival of the dinosaurs, continue to govern the natural world today, ensuring that life persists in its intricate, interconnected dance. Part 9. Reflections on Ancient Tranquility. As the Mesozoic era unfolded, it became more than just a time of rapid evolution and species diversification. It was an era that carried an inherent rhythm, a deeper flow in the patterns of life that sustained entire ecosystems. The transitions between periods from the Triassic to the Jurassic to the Cretaceous were marked by the gradual development of predictable cycles that governed not just the creatures of the land, but the environments themselves. These cycles were not chaotic, nor were they rushed. They were as much a part of the landscape as the towering trees and the sweeping rivers that cut through ancient terrain. Dinosaurs, great and small, lived within this rhythm, and in their bones, footprints, and behaviors, one can trace the quiet yet unyielding continuity of life, shaped not by sudden upheaval, but by the long, unbroken passage of time. Fossilized evidence, particularly in the form of bone histology, has allowed paleontologists to peer into the lives of dinosaurs with a remarkable level of detail. Bone histology, the study of the microscopic structure of bones, has revealed that dinosaurs did not grow at a constant pace. Instead, their growth was cyclical, reflecting the seasonal availability of resources. In times of abundance, when food was plentiful, dinosaurs grew rapidly. When food became scarce or environmental pressures intensified, their growth slowed or even halted until conditions improved. This cyclical pattern is not dissimilar to the growth rings seen in trees, indicators of the passage of time and environmental conditions. In this way, the bones of dinosaurs serve as a testament to the rhythms of life that governed their existence. These ancient creatures were not simply products of random evolution, but were deeply attuned to the cyclical patterns of the world around them. This rhythm of growth and survival wasn't limited to individual dinosaurs. It extended to entire ecosystems where life was intricately interwoven. Plants, for example, adapted to the constant pressures of herbivory, evolving traits to ensure their survival in a world where they were constantly consumed. Ferns, conifers and cycads grew quickly and in abundance, not only to thrive in the face of constant grazing, but to ensure that the ecosystem as a whole remained balanced. Fossilized remains of plants reveal how they adapted to this pressure by developing harder leaves, tougher bark, and faster regeneration capabilities. In the same way, the herbivores, whether large sauropods or smaller ornithopods, kept pace with the ever-changing environment, evolving to better process the vegetation around them, while the carnivores, like Allosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus, adjusted to the movement patterns of their prey. It was a world of constant interaction, all flowing in sync with the rhythms of nature. The quiet resilience of life is further demonstrated in the healing patterns found in fossilized dinosaur bones. These bones, many of which bear evidence of healed fractures, tell the story of survival against the odds. Life in the Mesozoic was fraught with challenges, whether from predation, environmental pressures, or injuries. Yet, the bones of dinosaurs show a remarkable ability to recover, demonstrating not only the physical strength of these creatures, but also their innate drive to persist. A young sauropod, for example, might have suffered a broken limb, making it vulnerable to predators. However, the fossil record reveals that, in many cases, these fractures healed, allowing the individual to grow and thrive. These marks of survival point to a quieter, more enduring quality in the lives of these creatures, one that was rooted in an understanding of time and resilience. Even in the face of immense challenges, life continued on its steady course, with each cycle of growth and recovery allowing the next generation to rise. Fossilized plants also reflect this idea of resilience and cyclical life. When herbivores grazed on vegetation, it wasn't the end for these plants, but rather part of a natural cycle of growth, consumption, and regeneration. As plants were eaten, new generations grew, adapted, and evolved in response. The pressure from herbivores led to evolutionary innovations in plant life, thicker leaves, faster growth cycles, and new forms of defense, like spines or toxic compounds. This cycle of consumption and renewal kept ecosystems in a delicate but functional balance, creating environments where life continually adapted and thrived in the face of pressure. It was a process where destruction led to new creation, where the old made way for the new, and where the rhythm of life was never broken. The social behaviors of dinosaurs, too, reveal a deeper connection to these natural cycles. Fossilized nesting sites, particularly those of dinosaurs like Maiasaura, show that some species not only cared for their young, but did so in a coordinated, communal way. The fact that entire herds would return to the same nesting grounds each year suggests an awareness of the rhythms of reproduction and migration. These dinosaurs, like the plants and herbivores they relied upon, were in tune with the cyclical nature of life. They followed predictable patterns of breeding and migration, their actions reflecting a deep understanding of time's passage. These social structures were not merely biological necessities, they were deeply ingrained into the very fabric of the life cycle, further emphasizing the interconnectedness of all creatures in the prehistoric world. The trackways left behind by these ancient creatures provide another invaluable window into their world. Fossilized footprints, preserved in ancient riverbeds or mudflats, reveal not just the size and gait of the dinosaurs, but also their social interactions. Some trackways show that multiple species moved together, following parallel paths or even sharing the same migration routes. These footprints, preserved in time, reveal a world where movement, behavior, and social dynamics were all part of the greater rhythm of life. The very act of walking, the repetitive steps taken by these creatures across the landscape, was a part of the natural cycles, their movements shaped by the seasonal patterns of food availability, mating, and migration. Even as the Mesozoic era came to a close, the rhythms of life continued. While the mass extinction event that marked the end of the Cretaceous period dramatically disrupted the ecosystems of the time, the basic patterns of growth, reproduction, and renewal persisted. In the aftermath of this cataclysmic event, the planet began to heal, and new species, some of them descendants of the ancient dinosaurs, began to fill the niches left behind. The legacy of the dinosaurs continued, their presence still felt in the ecological rhythms that govern life today. The cycles they followed, those ancient patterns of growth, death, and rebirth, had not disappeared. They had simply evolved, carried forward into the future by the plants, animals, and ecosystems that survived. Looking back on the Mesozoic era, One is struck by the timeless nature of these rhythms. The dinosaurs, as varied and extraordinary as they were ultimately part of a much larger, ever-turning cycle. The evidence found in the fossils of these creatures, the bones, footprints, and plants, remind us of the continuity of life, of the quiet persistence of time that shapes all living things. In their bones we find a story not of chaos, but of slow, deliberate change. A story of survival, adaptation, and the enduring rhythms of life that echo across the millennia. The dinosaurs may no longer walk the earth, but their legacy, written in the very soil beneath our feet, lives on in the cycles that govern the natural world. Part 10. Embracing the Night of Prehistory. As the Mesozoic era drew to its final moments, the world was forever altered. The Night of Prehistory, long anticipated and eventually brought to reality by a series of cataclysmic events, was not simply a single moment of chaos, but rather a transition that reshaped the very fabric of life on Earth. The end of the dinosaurs marked the conclusion of an age that spanned over 160 million years, but it was also the start of something new. For millions of years, the Earth had been dominated by these colossal creatures, their footsteps echoing across the land, leaving indelible impressions in the fossil record. Yet, despite their enormous presence, they could not withstand the powerful forces of nature that ultimately erased their reign, leaving behind a world that would be reborn in the aftermath. The key to understanding the end of this era lies in the evidence embedded in the geologic layers of time. The iridium layer, a telltale sign of extraterrestrial impact, provides an unmistakable marker of the event that sealed the fate of the dinosaurs. Iridium, a rare metal that is more abundant in asteroids than on Earth, is found in layers across the world, coinciding with the mass extinction event at the boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods. The sheer scale of this impact, likely caused by a giant asteroid or comet, sent shockwaves through the atmosphere, igniting fires, altering climate patterns, and drastically affecting ecosystems. In an instant, the world was plunged into a darkness unlike any the Earth had experienced. The skies were thick with dust, blocking out the sun and disrupting the delicate balance of life. This prolonged period of darkness, along with the catastrophic environmental changes that followed, marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter for life on Earth. Alongside the iridium layer, the presence of shocked quartz and microtektites provides further evidence of the violent forces unleashed by the impact. These microscopic remnants of the impact event tell a story of sudden and extreme changes in temperature and pressure, effects that would have been felt across the planet. The shockwaves created by the asteroid's impact would have been enough to create intense heat, sparking widespread fires across the globe. As the dust and debris settled in the atmosphere, temperatures plummeted and the Earth's ecosystems collapsed. The once thriving world of dinosaurs, where the great herbivores roamed and the predators followed, was suddenly plunged into a prolonged winter. This dark period of devastation affected not only the dinosaurs, but the entire biosphere, from the smallest insects to the tallest trees. The landscape, once vibrant with life, was now a barren wasteland, a chilling reminder of the fragility of existence. Yet, even in the face of such overwhelming destruction, life's persistence remained unbroken. As the dust began to settle and the darkness began to lift, new opportunities arose for the survivors. Mammals, which had once been small and inconspicuous, began to flourish in the absence of the great dinosaurs. The extinction of the dinosaurs opened ecological niches that had been previously unavailable, and this allowed for the rise of new species. The gradual recovery of plant life, along with the stabilization of the climate, allowed ecosystems to slowly rebuild. Over millions of years, the Earth began to recover, though it would never be the same. The creatures that had once dominated the planet were gone, but their legacy lived on in the fossil record, a permanent reminder of an ancient world. The transition from the Mesozoic to the Cenozoic was not just a story of destruction, but also one of renewal. While the large dinosaurs had vanished, the world remained teeming with life. The mammals, which had survived the impact event, began to diversify and evolve rapidly. Smaller, more adaptable creatures filled the void left by the dinosaurs, eventually giving rise to the modern fauna that would come to dominate the Earth. Birds, the direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs, took to the skies, carrying with them the legacy of the creatures that once ruled the land. The ecosystems that emerged in the wake of the extinction event were different from the ones that had existed during the Mesozoic, but they were no less complex or interconnected. The world was forever changed, but life, as it always does, found a way to move forward. In the years that followed the extinction event, paleontologists began to uncover the stories of the past, stories written in the bones and footprints of the dinosaurs. The fossil record, with its incredible diversity of species and behaviors, has allowed scientists to piece together a vivid picture of life during the Mesozoic. These fossils serve as a time capsule, preserving the memory of creatures long gone and providing insight into the rhythms of life that once governed the Earth. From the smallest tracks left by early dinosaurs to the massive skeletons of sauropods, the fossils provide a direct connection to a distant past, a window into a world that no longer exists but continues to influence the present. The extinction event that ended the reign of the dinosaurs is a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life on Earth. It was a cataclysmic event, one that changed the course of history, but it also highlights the dynamic and ever-changing nature of life on this planet. The Earth has seen numerous mass extinctions throughout its history, each one a pivotal moment in the evolution of life. The disappearance of the dinosaurs may have marked the end of an era, but it also made way for the emergence of new life forms and new ecosystems. The world is constantly in flux, and life continues to evolve, adapt, and change in response to the forces of nature. In the quiet moments of reflection, the legacy of the dinosaurs is felt not only in the fossils that have been preserved, but in the very landscapes we inhabit today. The world that the dinosaurs once knew has evolved into something entirely different, but their influence is still seen in the creatures that walk the Earth, swim the oceans, and fly through the skies. The birds that now fill the skies are the living descendants of the great theropod dinosaurs, and the mammals that roam the land are the inheritors of the ecosystems once dominated by the great reptiles. The story of the dinosaurs is far from over. It is a story that continues to unfold, a tale of life, death, and rebirth, played out over millions of years. Their presence still echoes through time, a reminder of the vastness of life and the enduring power of nature's rhythms. In the end, the extinction of the dinosaurs serves as a poignant reflection on the fragility of life and the inevitability of change. The Earth's history is filled with moments of sudden upheaval, yet each of these moments has been followed by a new beginning. The dinosaurs, in their glory and their downfall, embodied this constant cycle of life, reminding us that the past is never truly gone. It lives on in the present, shaping the world around us in ways we may not always fully understand. The night of prehistory, though a time of darkness, is but one chapter in the ongoing story of life on Earth. The legacy of the dinosaurs, like the rhythms of the Earth itself, will endure, whispering through the bones of the past and the creatures of the present. Part 11. The Age of the Mammals. A New Dawn. The extinction of the dinosaurs was not the end of life on Earth, but rather the beginning of a new chapter in evolutionary history. The Cenozoic era, or the Age of Mammals, unfolded after the catastrophic events that extinguished the dinosaurs, but it was not without its challenges. The world was dramatically different. Environments were reshaped, ecosystems recalibrated, and survival was now in the hands of the creatures that had once lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs. For mammals, this was their time to rise, adapt, and ultimately dominate. From tiny nocturnal creatures that scurried along the forest floor to massive mammals that roamed the plains, the mammals quickly diversified, filling the empty niches left by the giant reptiles. The immediate aftermath of the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event was one of recovery and rebuilding. The world was still scarred by the fallout of the asteroid impact, and the climate was unstable. However, the absence of dinosaurs allowed mammals, previously limited by competition, to evolve rapidly. Some of the earliest mammals that survived were small, insect-eating creatures that thrived in the cooler, quieter nighttime hours, avoiding the harsh sunlight that would have been a disadvantage during the prolonged periods of darkness. As the environment stabilized, these mammals began to diversify into the wide array of forms we recognize today. The rise of mammals was not a sudden explosion of species, but a gradual process of adaptation, driven by environmental factors. The mammals that emerged were diverse, ranging from small, rodent-like creatures to larger, more complex species. The climate continued to stabilize over millions of years, eventually giving rise to grasslands and forests, and with them, new opportunities for the evolving mammals. Some mammals adapted to arboreal life, while others developed specialized teeth and jaws for grazing. Over time, the mammals developed a wide array of adaptations, including the evolution of warm-bloodedness, specialized limbs for running, and eventually, the development of flight in bats. Mammals were shaping themselves into an entirely new order of creatures, poised to dominate the Earth in the coming millennia. As mammals grew in size and complexity, they faced new challenges, including predation, climate fluctuations, and competition for resources. The development of more sophisticated brains allowed for better problem-solving and social organization, particularly in species such as early primates. These cognitive advances allowed some mammal species to hunt cooperatively, form social bonds, and even use tools, setting the stage for more advanced behaviors that would ultimately lead to the rise of human civilization. The Cenozoic era saw the creation of new ecological relationships, with predators and prey locked in an ongoing evolutionary arms race. The Earth had transformed, and with it, life was forever altered. The fossils left behind by early mammals, along with the ancient footprints and traces of their behavior, provide us with a glimpse into this remarkable evolutionary journey. Some fossils suggest that the mammals of the early Cenozoic were already engaging in complex social behavior, living in groups and working together for mutual benefit. Fossilized bones and teeth show that these early mammals exhibited a wide range of specialized adaptations, such as elongated limbs for running, sharpened teeth for carnivory, or flat molars for grinding plant material. These traits were essential for their survival and laid the foundation for the great diversity of mammals that would eventually emerge. Some of the most fascinating stories come from the development of the great megafauna, massive mammals that came to dominate the later stages of the Cenozoic era. Mammoths, mastodons, and giant ground sloths were some of the most iconic creatures of the Ice Age. These animals were adapted to cold, harsh climates, with thick fur and specialized features for surviving in extreme environments. At the same time, the development of early hominids, our ancient ancestors, marked a key turning point in the mammalian evolutionary story. These early humans, while still primitive, began to harness fire, create tools, and develop the social structures that would define our species for millennia to come. The mammalian world was not without its challenges, and the competition among species was fierce. As mammals evolved and adapted, so too did their predators. The apex predators of the Cenozoic were often formidable, such as the saber-toothed tiger and the dire wolf, which evolved to hunt large herbivores in the changing environments. These predators drove evolutionary changes in prey species, and the dance of predator and prey continued as it had in the time of the dinosaurs. This interplay of survival strategies shaped the course of mammalian evolution and continues to influence the ecology of our planet today. Despite the many challenges faced by mammals, their success in the Cenozoic era laid the groundwork for the world as we know it today. The spread of mammals across the globe, from the smallest rodents to the largest whales, is a testament to the resilience of life. Mammals, once overshadowed by the dominance of the dinosaurs, had found their place in the New World. Over time, mammals diversified, adapted, and filled nearly every ecological niche, from the depths of the oceans to the highest mountain peaks. As the Cenozoic era advanced, mammals continued to evolve into the species that would come to dominate the Earth in the modern age. From the evolutionary branches that led to modern primates and whales, to the ancestors of today's carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores, mammals began to shape the course of history in ways that no one could have predicted. As humans evolved from our primate ancestors, our own unique story intertwined with the animals around us, and we became part of the natural world that had once been ruled by the dinosaurs. In many ways, the mammalian revolution was just beginning. Its ripples would forever change the course of life on Earth. Part 12. The Evolving World of Prehistoric Mammals. The Aftermath of the Dinosaurs. The catastrophic extinction event, at the close of the Cretaceous period, dramatically altered the course of Earth's evolutionary history. As the non-avian dinosaurs vanished, a group of smaller, feathered theropod dinosaurs managed to survive this global upheaval. These survivors would evolve into the diverse bird species we recognize today. Over millions of years, a series of evolutionary steps led from small, flightless theropods to the many different kinds of birds that fill the world's skies, seas, and landscapes. The survival of these creatures was a testament to both the power of adaptation and the ever-creative process of evolution. Today, birds stand as the only surviving branch of the great dinosaur lineage, bearing the legacy of their dinosaur ancestors in every feathered movement and every characteristic they still carry. One of the most significant fossil discoveries that linked birds to their dinosaur ancestors was the finding of Archaeopteryx in the 19th century, which lived approximately 150 million years ago in the late Jurassic period. Archaeopteryx is considered one of the most important transitional fossils ever discovered, as it exhibited a unique combination of traits from both dinosaurs and birds. This small, feathered dinosaur possessed wings, feathers, and a lightweight skeleton similar to birds, yet retained distinctly dinosaurian features, including teeth, a long bony tail, and claws on its wings. This blend of characteristics solidified the theory that birds evolved from small theropod dinosaurs, providing a crucial piece of evidence for the connection between dinosaurs and modern birds, confirming the link and forever changing the way we understood avian evolution. Feathers are a defining characteristic of birds, but they didn't initially evolve for flight. In the earliest theropod dinosaurs, feathers likely served other purposes, such as insulation to retain heat or as part of elaborate display behaviors used during courtship. It wasn't until later that feathers became more specialized for flight. Over millions of years, the evolution of flight began to take shape with the development of longer, more efficient feathers. The transition from simple down-like structures to the sophisticated flight feathers of modern birds is a clear example of evolutionary refinement
as natural selection favored those with the most advantageous adaptations for gliding, soaring, and powered flight. It's this gradual process over millions of years that gave rise to the ability of some theropods to take to the skies, eventually evolving into true birds capable of sustained flight. As feathers became more specialized, the skeletal structure of these small theropods also began to change, paving the way for flight. Early birds, including Archaeopteryx, possessed an anatomy that was a mix of dinosaur and bird features, but the modifications necessary for flight were becoming more pronounced. The development of a keeled breastbone provided a strong anchor for the flight muscles, which were necessary for lift and sustained flight. Over time, the bones of early birds became more lightweight and hollow, a crucial adaptation for flight that reduced overall body mass without sacrificing strength. These structural changes enabled early birds to escape the confines of the ground and explore the skies, avoiding predators and finding new opportunities for food. This dramatic shift in body structure made flight an increasingly important factor in survival, leading to an array of other adaptations that made birds not just airborne creatures, but one of the most successful and diverse groups of animals in history. However, not all early birds flew in the same manner. Flight itself evolved in different directions, depending on the ecological pressures and niches early birds occupied. For example, some species like Microraptor developed four wings, using all of their limbs for gliding and possibly even controlled flight. These four-winged birds were adapted for maneuvering through dense forests and likely used their wings to glide between trees. Other species like Hesperornis took a completely different approach, becoming flightless and adapting to aquatic environments. These birds lost their ability to fly, but instead developed powerful, specialized legs for swimming, turning them into efficient hunters in the water. These examples illustrate the versatility and experimentation that early birds underwent as they adapted to various ecological roles. The evolution of flight was not a single path, but a complex web of strategies that ultimately led to the great diversity of birds we have today. With the extinction of most other dinosaur groups, birds experienced a rapid and extensive diversification. Freed from many of their predators and competitors, birds spread across the globe, filling every available ecological niche. Some species, like Argentavis, grew to enormous sizes, developing wingspans of over 20 feet and dominating the skies. Others, like penguins, evolved to become excellent swimmers, losing the ability to fly altogether in favor of a life spent underwater. This rapid diversification of flightless and flying species is a testament to the incredible adaptability of birds. As birds evolved, their ability to exploit various environments, whether soaring through the air or diving into the sea, allowed them to thrive in a world that was already dramatically different from the one in which their dinosaur ancestors had lived. Birds also developed increasingly complex behaviors that have played a crucial role in their evolutionary success. One of the most notable behaviors is migration, which has become a key survival strategy for many bird species. The Arctic tern, for instance, undertakes an extraordinary migration, flying thousands of miles between its breeding grounds in the Arctic and its feeding grounds in the Antarctic. This long-distance travel has allowed birds to exploit seasonal food sources in different regions, ensuring their survival. Migration is a direct result of the evolution of flight, and it underscores how birds have continued to evolve behaviors that give them access to resources in distant locations while avoiding harsh environmental conditions. This migratory pattern is just one example of how birds have adapted to life in a dynamic world, using their flight abilities to expand their reach and maximize their chances of survival. Social structures in birds have also evolved in fascinating ways.
While some bird species remain solitary, many others have developed intricate social systems that enhance survival. Flocking behavior, for instance, is common in many bird species, offering protection from predators and increasing the chances of finding food. In addition to foraging together, many birds exhibit complex courtship rituals, cooperative parenting, and territorial behaviors. The social behaviors seen in modern birds are a direct extension of the communal and protective behaviors observed in certain groups of theropod dinosaurs. These behaviors have been refined over time, enhancing the bird's ability to thrive in a wide range of environments, from the forests to the open ocean. Such behaviors continue to help birds maintain their place as one of the most successful groups of animals on Earth. The legacy of the dinosaurs lives on in the birds that continue to fill the skies today, from the structure of their limbs to the arrangement of bones in their feet. Birds retain many physical traits that were passed down from their dinosaur ancestors. Perhaps most strikingly, the presence of the furcula, or wishbone, found in all birds, is a direct remnant of their theropod ancestors. This simple yet profound link is just one of many physical features that connects modern birds to the ancient world of dinosaurs. Birds also share similar skeletal arrangements, including the structure of their legs and the composition of their bones. These anatomical similarities are a reminder of the deep evolutionary roots that birds share with their dinosaur ancestors, and they serve as evidence of the evolutionary journey that brought these creatures from the Mesozoic world to the skies of the present day. Part 13. The Rise of the Mammals. From Extinction to Dominance. The extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period, a cataclysmic event caused by a massive asteroid impact and volcanic activity, reshaped the Earth in ways that we are still trying to fully comprehend. With the sudden disappearance of these dominant creatures, a new ecological era began, one that saw the rise of the mammals. Prior to this event, mammals had been small nocturnal creatures, largely overshadowed by the vast and varied reptilian life that dominated every ecosystem. But with the dinosaurs gone, mammals were given the chance to step into vacant ecological niches, and their evolutionary paths began to diversify in a spectacular and rapid fashion. The absence of such large, predatory dinosaurs opened up an evolutionary void that mammals quickly began to fill, giving birth to a world that would eventually be ruled by the very mammals that had once been relegated to the shadows. In the first few million years following the extinction event, the mammals that survived were primarily small nocturnal and generally not much larger than the average modern rodent. These early mammals were opportunistic creatures that had adapted to the aftermath of the dinosaurs' reign. Their small size allowed them to evade the newly emerging predators, and their nocturnal behavior helped them avoid the harsher elements of the daytime environment. These mammals, despite their size and relative obscurity in the larger scheme of prehistoric life, laid the groundwork for the evolution of larger, more complex forms. Their ability to regulate body temperature in fluctuating climates provided them with an important survival advantage, allowing them to thrive in environments that were rapidly changing after the mass extinction. They were also endothermic, or warm-blooded, which gave them the ability to be more active than the cold-blooded reptiles that dominated earlier periods, making them well-suited for the New World. Over the course of the Paleocene and into the Eocene, the mammalian lineage began to diversify rapidly. During the Eocene, a wide range of new mammal forms began to emerge, many of which would eventually lead to the mammals we recognize today. These included early horses, rhinoceroses, and the first true primates. Fossil records show that during this time, mammals began to evolve larger sizes, complex brain structures, and more efficient systems for feeding and movement. Some, such as the ancestors of modern cetaceans, whales, dolphins and porpoises, began to transition to aquatic environments, while others, like the early carnivores, evolved to become powerful predators. The Eocene was a period of incredible adaptive radiation for mammals, a time when they took advantage of the available resources and began to fill the many niches that had been left vacant by the dinosaurs. This period of diversification laid the foundations for modern mammalian orders. One of the most remarkable evolutionary developments that emerged during this period was the appearance of placental mammals. These mammals gave birth to live young, a major advantage over the egg-laying species of the Mesozoic. Placental mammals had an internal gestation period, allowing them to protect their young in a more nurturing and supportive environment, which helped to ensure the survival of their offspring in a world that was still recovering from the cataclysmic effects of the extinction event. This adaptation allowed for the development of more complex brain structures and the ability for mammals to adapt more quickly to changing environments. As a result, placental mammals would eventually dominate the Earth, evolving into the wide range of species that would populate both land and sea. Meanwhile, the oceans were also undergoing a transformation. In the early Cenozoic era, following the extinction of marine reptiles like the mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, mammals began to venture into the ocean once again. The cetaceans, ancestors of today's whales, dolphins and porpoises, began to adapt to life in the water, undergoing dramatic changes in body structure. Early cetaceans, such as Ambulocetus, were amphibious, spending time both in the water and on land. However, over millions of years, these mammals evolved into fully aquatic creatures, developing streamlined bodies, large flippers, and tails capable of powerful propulsion. They became the dominant marine mammals, filling the ecological niche once occupied by marine reptiles. The transition from land to water in cetaceans is one of the most fascinating evolutionary stories, highlighting how mammals can adapt to an entirely new environment over vast periods of time. This shift in lifestyle led to the rise of the marine mammal kingdom, which would eventually include not only whales and dolphins, but also seals, sea lions, and manatees. On land, the Paleocene and Eocene epochs saw the rise of numerous large herbivorous mammals, like Indricotherium, also known as Paraceratherium, which grew to be one of the largest land mammals to ever live, towering over trees and feeding on the abundant plant life that covered much of the earth. These enormous herbivores had few natural predators due to their size, roaming the landscapes of what is now Asia and Europe. Meanwhile, the early carnivores, like creodonts, and early relatives of modern carnivores, such as the ancestors of cats, dogs, and bears, were adapting to become the top predators in their ecosystems. The fossil record suggests that these predators were incredibly well adapted for hunting, with sharp teeth, powerful jaws, and a strong sense of smell. These early carnivores played a crucial role in shaping ecosystems, much as the dinosaurs had done before them. They competed with the herbivores for food and influenced the evolution of their prey, leading to the development of more complex and diverse mammalian food webs. While mammals were diversifying, birds, those flying descendants of theropod dinosaurs, were also flourishing. The early Cenozoic witnessed a dramatic diversification of bird species, many of which began to grow to impressive sizes. One of the most fascinating groups to emerge was the giant flightless birds, known as the terror birds of South America. Birds like Phorus racos could reach over 10 feet in height and had large, powerful beaks and legs built for running down prey. These birds occupied the top predator niche in South America for millions of years, outcompeting mammals in the regions they inhabited. Their rise was a continuation of the ancient evolutionary connection between birds and dinosaurs, proving that even after the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs, the evolutionary legacy of this group still had a profound influence on the animals that followed. The period following the extinction of the dinosaurs also saw the emergence of some of the first primates, the ancestors of all modern primates, including humans. The first primates evolved during the late Cretaceous and early Paleocene, but it was in the Eocene that they truly began to diversify. These small, tree-dwelling mammals eventually gave rise to a variety of species, from the lemurs and tarsiers of Madagascar to the monkeys and apes of Africa and Asia. Early primates shared many characteristics with modern-day primates, including grasping hands and feet, large eyes suited for nighttime activity, and relatively large brains compared to their body size. Their evolution would eventually lead to the emergence of human beings millions of years later, a testament to the long and winding evolutionary path that mammals took to become the dominant group of animals on Earth. Throughout this time, mammals were not just growing in size and diversity, but they were also spreading across the globe. As the Earth's continents drifted and climate patterns shifted, mammals began to migrate into new regions, filling ecological roles that had once been held by the dinosaurs. By the Miocene, mammals were firmly established across all continents, from the frozen tundras of the north to the tropical forests of the south. The survival and diversification of mammals after the dinosaurs' extinction is one of the most profound examples of nature's ability to adapt, survive, and thrive in the face of catastrophic events. The extinction of the dinosaurs was a pivotal moment in Earth's history, but it was by no means the end of life on Earth. It was the beginning of an evolutionary renaissance, a time when mammals rose to prominence and began to fill the vast gaps left by the disappearance of the dinosaurs. Over millions of years, the descendants of those small nocturnal mammals that survived the extinction event would go on to dominate the land, the seas, and the skies, shaping the world as we know it today. Their evolutionary journey is one of survival, adaptation, and resilience, proving that life, no matter how small, can always find a way to thrive in even the most challenging of environments.